What's up, guys? Derek, moreplaysmoredays.com. Today we're going to be talking about injectable Superdrol versus oral Superdrol. So one of the reasons I even, have interest in covering this topic is a lot of the hype around the injectable SARMs versus oral SARMs, as well as injectable formats of other, anabolic androgenic steroids that are traditionally used orally, now being prepared in, suspensions and injectable preparations. There's a lot of people using, not a lot of people, but there's people using injectable Anadrol, injectable Anavar, a lot of stuff nowadays. And when you actually get into it, it's kind of interesting because it doesn't just come down to bioavailability, which is what you would assume logically is what I would have assumed too prior to, really looking into this in the past year, is that the actual first pass effect of drug metabolism doesn't necessarily just hinder bioavailability. It may also create metabolites that otherwise would not get created that have their own inherent anabolic and androgenic properties and tissue selectivity. So oral Superdrol versus injectable Superdrol is a good example of this. So this is just kind of what I wanted to delve into because we actually have clinical data to reflect this, as opposed to, with SARMs and, certain anabolic androgenic steroids, we're just kind of, speculating as to the tissue selectivity. So basically, not only is the side effect profile of oral Superdrol compared to injectable Superdrol substantially different, but even its anabolic to androgenic, rating changes pretty substantially with administration methods. So this is what I found really interesting. When administered orally, Superdrol was more anabolic than methyl testosterone and several times less androgenic than methyl testosterone. So just as a reference point, methyl testosterone has an anabolic to androgenic ratio similar to that of testosterone, about 1:1. So it's often seen as, like a reference point or like a baseline of anabolic to androgenic activity, whereby, other steroids are compared to as the relative baseline of like completely even activity between the two, tissue selectivity contexts. So methyl testosterone, like I said, it's pretty close to 1:1, just like testosterone. When administered via injection, though, Superdrol was nearly twice as anabolic as testosterone, normal testosterone, and twice as androgenic as testosterone. So that, when it says twice as anabolic and twice as androgenic, obviously that's still just as anabolic to androgenic, regardless if it's twice as much. Milligram for milligram, it's stronger, but there's no tissue selectivity there really. So the results of subsequent assays to determine Superdrol's anabolic and androgenic activity found that Superdrol possessed the oral bioavailability of methyl testosterone while being 400% as anabolic and 20% as androgenic, yielding an anabolic to androgenic ratio of 20:1. So in the case of Superdrol, injecting it actually made it less tissue selective, despite oral administration having the obvious drawback of lower bioavailability and hepatotoxicity and whatnot. The administration method itself significantly alters the way it actually impacts the body after absorption, which is really interesting because it's kind of just like a thing that we speculate about at the end of the day, but no one really knows. We just assume if you inject something, it's going to work better milligram for milligram because more of it's getting into the body. It's not getting broken down by the liver. But it doesn't seem to play out that way. Sometimes just the metabolites that get created are actually the tissue selective components of the compound that make it, better, not necessarily the parent hormone itself, which is, really interesting. I don't know exactly if that's what's going on in the case of Superdrol, but, just based on the clinical data, we can see that oral administration in a tissue selectivity context is superior to injectable, which is, super weird. It's like one of the most toxic compounds ever. You would think it orally administered would, be a worse outcome, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So aside from, obviously its impact on biomarkers, AST, ALT is like a different thing entirely to how anabolic to androgenic it is. So there's like different, ways to look at this, but I'm just saying in terms of the actual, thing we'd be looking for out of a compound is having the most anabolic activity possible relative to androgenic activity for people who are trying to minimize androgenicity related side effects. Oral Superdrol is superior to injectable, which is very interesting to me. So anyways, take from that what you will. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplaysmoredays.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplays_moredays, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, etc. If you want to get emailed articles as soon as they go live with all the clinical studies I reference, any, trials, data, whatever it is that I pull my, statistics from, or pull my, sort of accumulate my knowledge from exactly, that I relay back to you guys. I always present it in a way more palatable, set subsections with table of contents and really organized articles that aren't just me rambling. It's just like straight up concise summaries of each, point form thing with these studies linked beside them that you guys can click on to delve into further yourself for your own further research if you would like. So a lot of incentive to sign up to the mailing list. It's the first link in the description below. You won't get sent those articles if you don't sign up. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.